All right? Trust.
And over here it says, setting up your meeting for Facebook Live.
Don't believe that stuff. Come on. Evidence. Look, in the face of evidence.
Check it again. I am releasing all emotional attachment to that being the correct stream.
No, you're right. That's the other day. That's you from the other day. So.
But now we're live and there are people watching us, and thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, we really are. That's good.
That's just how it goes. Let me thank you so much.
Start tapping right away. I release all my emotional attachments to Facebook Live, telling me when I'm really live.
We're live now, and there are people here watching us, and so thank you for joining us. Steve and I are both part of this event coming up on July 31st called Tapping Into Your Big Vision Live. It'll be an all-day live event. Well, it'll be all day if you're in the UK. For those of us in the former colonies, those of us will be watching the replay, because when you join, you get the recordings in case it doesn't fit.
Not all the former colonies, because the Aussies, it'll be late at night, probably not too late for some people. And yeah, I think my session is like 8 p.m. in the evening in Perth, or 8:15. So that'll be like 10:15 in Sydney. So yeah, hey, spend the night with us.
Mine will be at 9 a.m. Pacific. So most of the Aussies will be in Betty Bye-Bye.
Yeah. That's 9 a.m. Pacific. Anyway, it's mid-morning. Some people, why not? Why not spend the night? Could be could change your life.
9 a.m. is, let's see, it's
about 15 hours behind Perth time, so that's like 9 p.m.
It'll be about 2. It'll be 2 a.m. in Sydney.
It's midnight, 2 a.m. Come on, you can do it. Some people, they're just getting ready to party at that time.
Exactly. So anyhow, that's the technicalities. We got that out of the way now. You can find out more information. There's a link if you go in look in the info box right here, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, in the info box down below, you can get a link to all the details. But this was set up by our friends Melanie Moore and Jackie Crooks. And they decided, hey, we're going to do this big tapping event. And while 4 of them for the UK, they decided, all right, we should get at least one representative from the former colonies. And somehow they came up with us.
Why not? Why not us?
Exactly.
Not you, who?
And for many of you, I've been doing this series of meet and greets because some of these folks, not all of you are familiar with. Now, anyone's been following me for a while, Steve, because last year we did the Tap Into Yes, the recordings of which are now available, and you can find those on our website. And but Steve, why don't you tell them what you are going to be covering in Tapping Into Your Big Vision?
Hey, the great thing about this program is that we're all working together. And, Melanie and Jackie have pulled together some lovely people, including us, and and put together a cohesive program. So,
right.
He's going to be starting with releasing old stuff, ancestral stuff, as well as, your previous life stuff. And I'm going to pick that up because the starting point of this is releasing stuff that stops you from being able to get to your big vision, which is the whole idea of this. And of course, you're coming in later on and
talking about abundance. Once that foundation is built to be able to build your big dream on, then we'll put that abundant castle up on top of that foundation.
So my session is about opening up to possibility. And opening up is really, some of us, if you open up our houses, they're already full, like you know, I have relatives, I won't mention who, like, you can't get in the door, you know, because it's already crammed with so much stuff. I was like, how do you fit any more in here, you know? So this is actually what my session is about, is like, if you want what you want to come into your life, you got to make some space. It's kind of like the old, you know, the ancient story of the guy who's like, you know, is pouring the tea and he just keeps pouring it, you know, and the student is like, why are you doing that? He's like, well, you are like this teacup, you're already full. And if you're going to put something new in, you've got to actually, you know,
Got to be room for it.
out stuff that's in there that ain't so good, that you don't want to drink. And that's what I have discovered recently with this thing called intention tapping, is that it's all about releasing. You know, in my early life, I thought it was all about getting, you know, like I got to get this and I got to, you know, achieve that. And I've got to, you know, there are some things that come with age, you know, because you bash your head against a brick wall for long enough, you go, this hurts, you know. And, you know, I was frustrated so much. You know, it's not that I didn't get some things and didn't do some things and didn't achieve some things, but it was always pushing against resistance. And, you know, that resistance was my previous attachments, my, you know, things I had learned about what I could do, what I couldn't do, who I was, you know, what I was. And now I realize that's all BS. It's, you know, it's all belief systems, you know, and it is BS. It is, excuse my French, bullshit. You know, it really is, because it's just stuff that we've attached to. It's not who we are at all. And unless we can find ways to release that, then we stay stuck inside it. You know, we stay stuck in the box of our thinking, the box of our, not just our thinking, it's our thought feeling, because the emotions are the challenge. Like, right. You try and change it, you know, you try and talk yourself into being, you know, I'm wonderful, and you're already attached to I'm stupid or I'm not good enough or whatever. And the not good enough comes through loud and clear, you know. And anyway.
Yeah, that idea that the universe somehow won't pay attention to what we're secretly feeling about what we're trying to say.
Yeah. And it is true that everything is available. It is true that everything's possible. But you know what? It's also true that we're stuck in a box and we can't see it and we can't access it. And the other part of that box is also the box of, all these wonderful things that I need to have and be and do. Once you release the box, some of it you go, huh? I don't even need that. You know, like I go around in my life sometimes, I think, if people knew, you know, that the things that I'm happy with, that are, you know, that other people would not be happy with, you know, because I don't care about things that, you know, it's not my value. It's not important to me. But it's not just that, is I've learned that I don't care about it by releasing my attachment to it. Yeah. And you know, it's astounded me really that some of the biggest things I've achieved are really just small things, you know, just small things like being able to go to sleep straight away. Okay. Like, I always believed I was the kind of person that took an hour to get to sleep. And then after, you know, using this intention tapping process that I discovered one night, because I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, ever since then, I am now a person who can go to sleep in 2 minutes. And that's what I do. And all that wasn't even a problem that wasn't even something that I was seeking, right? It was just something that I discovered.
Right.
And it just went away. You know, all my life, I was not a handyman, and I hated myself for not being a real man, you know, and I'd try and do things and I'd feel like an idiot. And then, you know, I have some of these thoughts and frustrations. I release them using the intention tapping. And then I see some little jobs and they do, and I think, I can do that. I just think, why don't I do that? You know, I'm not, okay, I haven't become Mr. Home Handyman of the Decade, but I don't have the feeling anymore of being a loser. I don't have a, so these are not things that, I set out to be an intergalactic megastar. No, it's just like I discovered that I can be a home handyman too. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm essentially saying, is that there's a lot of stuff that you believe about yourself that's not true. And that's what prevents you from having everything that you want, because everything that you want is available to you. But also some of your beliefs about what you want are not true. They're just attachments to other people's values or what the world values. But once you release, your attachments to that, you can have it or not have it. You go, well, yeah, I don't really need it. Thanks. I know I can have it. And, and sometimes you have to taste it first. Like, I've been fortunate, I've been able to travel around the world. I've been able to, through the generosity of my friend Dave Lake, I got to eat at, Pierre Garnier's Michelin 3-star restaurant, and experience all of that stuff. And it's, and it's great. And when you've tried it, then you can say, well, yeah, I understand why it's good, but
it's like the years that I obsessed over Porsches and had the vision boards, and I would collect the owner's manuals or the promo pamphlets. And then I bought myself one on one of my birthdays several years back and sold it back 3 weeks later. It's like, I was sure this is the one thing I really want. The one material thing that I really want. I'm so blessed, but the one material thing that is still missing from my life is a Porsche 911. And when I got it, it's like, this doesn't fit my life.
Yeah.
I like going to Costco and Home Depot and getting things that don't fit into a 911. Our daughter was 17 at the time and still living at home, and we couldn't go out to dinner, the three of us, because a 17-year-old does not fit into the back seat of a 911.
Yeah.
And it's like it, and also I work from home, so I go to the grocery store occasionally, and it's hard to fully appreciate what a 911 has to offer on a 2-mile drive through a neighborhood to a grocery store. Yeah. So it was like, okay, this is not the time. And there may be a time later when it might be more right. But it was great. And I'm very fortunate that, like I said, I got, as you were saying, got to have that taste and recognize, okay. But for me, it's such an example of what we think we want ain't necessarily so. And so yeah, what you're talking about is clearing that.
I say, let's sacrifice everything on the altar of releasing, because releasing is now my big thing, because I just discovered in intention tapping about releasing. Now, let me just clarify here, by the way, if you want the Porsche, if you want the
absolutely,
right, and if you love it and it energizes you and it gives you the good energy and you feel right, and man, go for it. Like
Porsches are beautiful cars. I still have a great appreciation for them. It was just a matter of recognizing what I valued at this time. It didn't fit in, and it was just an awareness. So yeah, so we're certainly not saying, you know what, really, to be happy, you should want nothing.
Yeah.
You should be living in a cardboard box and eating, one raisin a day, and
at least your attachment to eating, and
no, if it is for your highest good to have a yacht and a private jet and a Porsche and be eating in Michelin restaurants every night, the universe can afford that.
Yeah. And the releasing is releasing what's preventing you from living your life and living your values. I saw some people that were actually learning to rock climb. They're just using their, like, hanging on a couple of fingers thousands of feet in the air, and that's it. What's part of the training? We have to release our attachments to pain. Okay, so they have to release their attachments to that pain in order to be able to climb that thing. I watched another program where they're teaching people to dive underwater, right? And to hold their breath, to do this deep diving And they're under there for, I don't know, like 17 minutes. It's ridiculous. It's like, I thought 2 minutes was the world record, you know, when I was a kid. But my, how do you do that? They said, we released our emotional attachments to oxygen. I'm like, really? Okay. So this releasing attachments thing's got something going for it, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay. I don't think anyone's been able to release their attachments to oxygen and do without it forever. You know, we're not talking about that. But if you want to do
until you come to the end of your life, at which point you go,
release your attachment.
I now release my,
you know,
I release my emotional attachment to being here in physical form.
Yeah. So anyway, so I've discovered that the power is in releasing, and usually you discover what you need to release when you want something. And it's not the releasing of the wanting, although that might be the case ultimately. First of all, you got to release the barrier that gets in the way, right? And that's the subconscious block that gets teased out. The minute you think of doing something, you get this resistance, you know. And you know about 100% yes. My concept of, like, you know, you can go for it. It's 100% yes. You're not blocked. Like a little kid, and you ask a little kid, do you want some ice cream? They go, yes. There's no in it, you know. You ask an adult, you want some ice cream, and they got that little kid yes, and then they yeah, but, you know, sugar, I can't have too much sugar. And if have you got a yogurt one, you know, or a one that's made out of soy, you know, like, and all the no's come out, you know, and okay, we, for good reasons in some cases, we need to learn to say no, but every no is a yes to something else, and every yes is a no to something else.
Right.
So that concept, though, of being able to say yes to what's real and good and important and fits your values, you know, and that involves knowing your values and, you know, knowing what's important to you. But it also involves releasing attachments to false values and false beliefs. And as you know, I was, you know, I wrote a book about this. I was running the programs, running the workshops. I wrote a book about this, but I just couldn't get this book finished. And I said to a friend, I said, I'm about 80% yes on 100% yes, you know. I was 100% yes about doing the seminars, but something about that, I just couldn't get that book finished. And it was only when I discovered the intention tapping process that I was able to get over the line with the last bit of it. And I also had a coach that helped me. And, you know, I was talking to her one day and she said, what do you need to do to get this book finished, to get published? And I said, well, it's got to be worthy, you know. And she says, Steve, how committed are you to this book having to be worthy? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am so attached to this concept of worthiness that this has to be a mega intergalactic bestseller thing, that I've lost sight of what's really important. And so I went away from that session. She helped me to see it. And then I used the tapping and the intention tapping process to release the attachments to the worthy concept. And then I was like, well, just settle down and relax and go, hey, I'm putting this out there to help people, and it's going to go out there, you know, to help the people that it's there to help. And that was what got me over the line to finish it. And that, you know, the process from thinking about writing that book to starting writing that book to stop, that was probably 10 years, you know, that took to get that. Now, people tell you it took 10 years to write a book. No, it took them a few weeks to write the book, or, you know, even probably a few days of writing. 10 years to get over the resistance.
Yeah.
So
and it is a worthy book.
Getting over that, you know, releasing that resistance. And the resistance comes in the form of beliefs that say, you know, it has to be worthy, or you're not worthy enough, or you don't deserve it, or you're not good enough. And that's BS. And, you know, my session is going to be about ways of releasing that using intention tapping, which is something that I discovered. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with people and taking them through that process and giving them as much as I can in the time that I have. Plus, the great thing about this is Jackie will have got them started, you know, releasing some stuff using EFT on ancestral stuff and past stuff. And then I'm going to do my session on releasing. And then that's when Melanie is going to come in and do her visioning process, which will be a great, great thing. And then I know Tamara is going to be doing some grounding of the vision work. And then Andy Bryce is going to be opening to receiving, which is, he's already talked about that with you. And, I watched a little bit of your Facebook Live and laughed along with you guys. I can't wait till the time we can all get together face to face.
Long overdue. It's a long time coming.
And then you're going to be finishing it off, and what a great way to finish it with a bang, And the man who's done so much work in abundance and done your own stuff, done your own work. That the Porsche thing is just one little tiny example of lots of stuff that I've seen over the years and that we've shared, and that you've shared with other people that I haven't seen as well. So looking forward to that.
After you release all desire for abundance, I'm going to come in and tell you how to have abundance. It'll work more smoothly than that. But let's, because I've been doing this in all of these little meet and greets, and because when people do take the time to show up, I like to give them some tapping. So why don't you, in this idea of releasing resistance, why don't you start off? We'll do a co-tap.
Yeah. So first of all, the way that I do tapping, that my good mate, Dr. David Lake, and I developed is a more continual form of tapping where you're just tapping on the points and then just following whatever you notice. And so the first thing is just to get started and be doing some tapping, And so if you're new to this, you can just kind of follow along, starting at the start of the eyebrow with us. I know a lot of the people that I'm going to share with this, some of them know about tapping and some of them don't, And, just follow along and tap on these points. Oh, this is my favorite point, by the way, but ever since I've got glasses, I got, stymied by can't tap there so easily. So I kind of do this awkward tap between the glasses. Still works. And under the eye. And then so just keep tapping on the points. And then, of course, you want to have you can just tap. You can get great benefits just from tapping, and it's a great, great thing to do that, just to tap. And, you tune and tone your energy just by doing this. So if you're doing it now, you get the benefits just from tapping. And if you do that without even having to be clever, without even having to be, a psychologist or having to find a core issue, then you can get benefits. Your general stress will come down and your good energy will come up. And of course, we do the finger tapping where you can tap on the finger points using the other hand, or you can tap using the thumb of the same hand on the, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger. And this kind of discrete tapping, I can be doing this and you wouldn't know that I was doing it. I could be under the table in the boardroom, I'm not going to be sitting in front of the CEO doing like this, but I could be tapping under the table doing this and calming myself before my presentation or whatever I need to do. So while we're doing the intention tapping, while we're just doing the general tapping, now we need to, if we're going to do a targeted tapping, let's find something to target. Now that's not hard to find. Like think about something that you want and instantly there will be a block. Now, if there's no block, just go for it. You don't have to worry. Just go for it. You don't have to say 5,000 Hail Marys. You don't have to, do 12 flips in the air. You just go for it,
If you don't already have it, assume that there might be a block.
Yeah. So let's pick something that is a little bit further out that you think, well, maybe I won't get that, or maybe I'm not sure about that. And then you'll notice some kind of resistance. It might be a thought, it might be a feeling. And so I'm just going to make an assumption, that it's like a thought that comes up. Okay. And so just tap and just focus on that thought that's come up, the resistance. And just say, I release all my emotional attachments to
all my emotional attachments to this thought.
Yeah. whatever it is. And then you just keep tapping and just let it do what it does and just notice. And this is a process of allowing your unconscious to deliver the next part, you know. And if you're like most people, that will kind of move into something else. And it might be another thought or it might be a feeling. And let's say it's a feeling. And for me, this is a common feeling for me is in the chest. And so there's a disturbance in the body. You wouldn't be upset about things unless there was a disturbance in the body. And so if you notice something in the body, then you can restore the right energy flow just by targeting that area. And so if it's the chest, I would say I restore the right energy flow to my chest. And that's what I'll do. But if it's in your head or if it's in your stomach, then you can say I restore the right energy flow to my head or to my stomach. So we just keep tapping. We notice the disturbance and we say, I restore the right energy flow to my chest.
I restore the right energy flow to my chest.
Or wherever it is.
Or wherever.
And just notice. And just tapping. And, you know, this is a little quieter than the way a lot of people do tapping because you're just allowing your body and your unconscious mind to work with this process and just allowing it to deliver what comes next. So let's say now, you know, you have this memory, like I had a memory doing some work this morning of an incident where some big older kids at school threatened me. And that came up because of something that I was looking forward to doing. Isn't that strange? You know? And so it's like, what does this memory have to do with it? The logical mind says.
Right.
So I can simply say, I release all my emotional attachments to that memory. And it's a funny thing because I've had this kind of pinched nerve in my neck. And I realized that I wasn't able to look left so easily. And then I realized that this kid punched me on the left side. And I was kind of not allowing myself to look left. So often our physical things relate to emotional things and stuff like that. Okay, so this isn't necessarily, this is my stuff and not necessarily your stuff, right?
Because I do all that chatter.
So let's make something up and then you can make it attach to whatever it is for you, okay? So just say, think about your goal and notice any resistance. And the great thing about this technique is you don't have to try and be specific like EFT. And just say, I release all my emotional attachments to this resistance.
I release all my emotional attachments to this resistance.
And let that do whatever it does. And notice whatever you notice. And a thought, a memory might come, or a feeling might come. And just say, whatever it is, I release all my emotional attachments to this.
I release all my emotional attachments to this.
And everything it means to me.
And everything it means to me.
And everything I'm making it mean.
And everything I'm making it mean.
And then think about what you want. And just say, I release all my resistances and aversions.
I release all my resistances and aversions
to having this.
To having this.
And just as you're tapping, I'm just going to ask you to scan through your body. Because there's always a body component. And you might have already noticed what it is. So let me ask you, Brad, because you're doing it along with me and you're moving your shoulders. What's happening for you?
Yeah,
Where in
just
the body?
so that's often where it happens for me is my shoulders is when I start to tune into something and start to feel a release, is that freedom comes in the shoulders.
All right, so let's go with that. And let's assume there might be a little bit more there. And just say, I restore the right energy flow to the shoulders.
I restore the right energy flow to my shoulders.
And for everyone who's watching along, you can apply it to wherever that is for you. And then just let it do what it does. Don't try and consciously make the feeling change or do anything. Just notice. And just keep tapping and notice what happens with that. And then notice what comes next. And it could be a thought, could be a feeling, could be, another part of the body. So I'll follow along and say, okay, that feeling in my chest, it's all opened up now, but now a little bit further down, it's a little bit disturbed. And this is what happens. Energy is meant to move. So now I notice my diaphragm and I can just say, I restore the right energy flow to my diaphragm. And of course, you do your own version. And you keep tapping and let it do what it does. And you just notice. I notice now I can take a breath and now I can breathe right down into my stomach. And I didn't even know that it was actually disturbed before, so there was a little bit of tension there, obviously, that was stopping me from being able to breathe freely. And now I can breathe all the way down into my stomach.
I'm noticing my shoulders are lower than they were before.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the basic process of intention tapping that I'm going to be showing people in the mini workshop that we're doing. Well, my mini workshop, part of the whole program, the Big Vision Live program. And then, once you do that and you start allowing that to move and getting a little bit more freedom, that's when you guys are going to come in and do some more. So why don't you pick up, Brad, because and then you can give us something to tap along with.
You've got me in such a Zen place now.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. We'll just sort of wrap it up. So with all of this resistance, I choose to love and appreciate those parts of me.
I choose to love and appreciate those parts of me
that thought this was necessary. I wasn't wrong or bad or stupid for feeling resistance.
I wasn't wrong or bad or stupid for feeling resistance.
It's just the result of my programming.
Just the result of my programming.
And I appreciate all these attempts.
I appreciate all of these attempts.
To keep myself safe. Based on what might very well be misunderstandings.
Based on what absolutely is.
And I'm giving myself permission. To release all these emotional attachments. Restore the right energy.
Flow.
And allow myself to feel better.
And allow myself
to let things get better and better. And allowing myself to know that I deserve that. In body, mind, and spirit. And take a deep breath. And then click the link to join us on July 31st.
Of course. Yeah, this is just a little, tiny taste of, it's always great working with you, and it's going to be a fantastic thing to be able to get together with all of those people and to do the tapping along with all of them and to do the visualizations and, visioning process and to be able to free some space for that stuff too. to come in and to happen.
Yeah. And the timing of it is great as we're coming through a very challenging time for the world and starting to move towards opening up and a lot more possibilities opening up. This will be a great way for folks to really get ready and for all these opportunities. So
Well,
by
I
all
say
means, James.
get ready and don't wait for the world to do everything before you open up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because some people are still waiting after 9/11. Some people are still waiting after the financial crisis, you know, for everything to be okay. And they'll still be waiting for years after this. And so, the real security is what you find inside yourself. The real freedom is what you find inside yourself to be able to live your values, whatever's happening in the world.
I release all emotional attachment to waiting for the right time. Now.
Too right. Yeah,
now.
I release all my emotional attachments to the world opening up according to my specific agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked me in an interview the other day, said, why would you say that now is the time for people to pursue their big dreams? And I said, well, there's a great, I think it's a Chinese proverb of the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Yeah. The second best time is right now.
That's right. That's right. And we are enjoying the shade from people who thought about that long, and did that at that time. And there's no perfect time actually, but the perfect time is now. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, all of you who have joined us, whether you're joining us live or watching the replay. And we look forward to having you join us on July 31st.
And thanks again, Brad. Always good fun getting together with you.
It is. Thanks.